Okay, so we both know why you're here. I am going to map out some facts that I have recently learned about love in the time of Corona, and some of you are going to disagree with those facts and tell me about them in the comments. Some of you are going to correct my grammar in the comments. Some of you are going to teach me something, and I'll end up pinning that comment so we can all learn and, you know, go about being a family and everything. But most importantly, we are here today to give away a goddamn wedding dress. Let's do this. For those of you who are just now joining me on this journey, welcome! Hey! I'm Devin. I'll also trust you to catch up on this wedding dress journey by watching this video right here. You can also connect the dots. We're mostly adults here. Nice of you to pass through, by the way. Welcome to... Okay, family, I'm going to be real with y'all. This was goddamn hard. This was a hefty lift of a project for yours truly. And you know what? She came as a surprise. I fully expected to receive 18 applicants for this wedding dress, like give or take maybe a half. But that was simply not the case. And I read through every story. It took me about 3 days, a lot of tissues, a hell of a lot of dark chocolate Ghirardelli squares. And you know what? Some good old fashioned procrastination. But you know what? I did this to myself. I asked for the stories and y'all delivered. So well done. Not to pat myself on the back too much, because girl, I can. Not only was this project time consuming, but you know, it really did make me stop and re-examine the landscape of love and relationships in this crazy timeline that we're all living in. Like, there is no doubt that the generations who are living through this moment are all gonna walk away from this experience with some weird and special quirks, y'all. Think about this. We elbow bump now. That is an acceptable form of communication. I know, it's wild. If someone tried to elbow bump me 9 months ago, also, when March rolled around, it felt like a lot of the psycho and socio data that we received about how the coronavirus affected marriage and family, well, all of it felt really negative. I remember one day in particular in June when I was, you know, spending some quality time here on the shared space known as the World Wide Web, and I happened upon this BBC article that made me like, you know what I'm talking about. These type of internet moments we have time to time where we log on with a healthy amount of serotonin going, like a nice stable amount. And then we read something or watch something and we're just wrecked for the rest of the day. Well, that was this article for me. At least it was in the beginning, but then I read to the end and it had some, you know, lighthearted bits towards the end, which you should always read your articles into the end. Internet wisely, my friends. Anyways, here's what I knew going into the pandemic. The American media really ran wild with one particular story based off of one city, singular one city in China, a city in China, Xi'an, because Xi'an found the most evident spike in divorce rates in March. So much so that Xi'an divorce appointment explosion was a trending search term on Weibo, which is a social media app in China. In fact, and I did not know this, you can file for divorce in China using a social media app. I know! Listen, I am not here to judge. A lot of people need divorces for a lot of different reasons. I'm just amazed that a legal service can be provided through a social media platform. Which got me thinking, if you're gonna file for the big D on your phone, you might as well do so in style, bitch. And what I'm talking about is with a popping phone case. I know, here it comes. Another seamless segue into a word from our sponsors, Casetify. Let's face it, for a lot of us, our most intimate relationship we have is with our phones. And Casetify is an online phone case retailer that makes customizable fits for your best friend. I ordered a couple from their site and it was so easy, and I can't wait to show you my new little creation babies. One of the coolest things I love about these puppies is that each case has military grade top protection, which is what I hear is the #1 characteristic in keeping a healthy relationship going strong. Check out the link in my bio to learn more. Check out their different designs and customization possibilities, and to get 20% off your first order. Casetify. State your case. Okay, speaking of happy relationships, I would like to introduce you to this couple today. This is Joey and Lauren. They're my friends from college, and you might also recognize them from a Harry Potter musical. These are the actors that I cast today to play Tom and Rebecca. I figured with all this talk about relationships ending in Xi'an, we needed some happy baby news. So I wanted to share with you one of my favorite stories that was submitted to me through the dress contest. I love this story so much because just how fun Rebecca sounds. She sounds like, well, to be honest with you, she sounds like we would be drinking buddies. Like, homegirl is a firecracker, and I could tell from her story that she has so much personality. So here it goes. Back in 2008, I was at the local Starbucks before the first day of sophomore year started. I look over to the drink waiting area and notice this gorgeous head of dark hair nod at the barista as she calls the name Tom. My eyes follow him the whole time as he walks by me, and from that moment on, it was my mission to find out who he was. I grab my drink, Mom drops me off, and I head to the third floor of French class, excited to talk to my best friend about this mystery man. Opening the door from the staircase, stepping into the hallway, and bam! Standing at the lockers next to my classroom door, it's Mystery Man Tom. Slowly, I was able to learn who he was from his friends in his first period Spanish class. She continued to watch him from afar, and she's saying here that she even joined the track team so she could watch him practice. The next year, I started dating this guy who graduated from my high school and who I worked with. He told me he was friends with many of the seniors and was planning to have a party where he wanted to introduce me to these friends. And as my boyfriend was introducing me to these guys, another guy walks in. Guess who it is? It's Tom. My jaw falls to the floor and I lose all sense of speech. Long story short, I get too drunk and convince my boyfriend to walk down the street to get me chips. While he does that, Tom and I are left beer ponging alone, and I proceed to inform him that I love him and I want to hold his hand. As her boyfriend is getting her chips down the street. I love it. He laughs it off, gets me some water, and acts like it never happened. That is a good guy. Jump ahead a couple relationships later to 2013. I was in the process of dropping out of school and just exploring life, and I got a new friend on Snapchat. You know who it is. It's Tom. Hadn't thought about him in a long time, and I know he moved to Colorado for college, 2,000 miles away. We start sending snaps, nothing flirty, more friend-like, but with a hint of you look cute. So she goes to this bar next to that Starbucks from earlier in the story with this new guy that her sister's trying to set him up with. And in the front window, she sees Tom standing in the entry line with a group of girls. After a few drinks, I had some courage, so I ran up to him and loudly announced how excited I was to see him and that I was upset that he didn't tell me he was coming home from Colorado. We exchanged numbers and proceeded to hang out with our groups. Later that night, I was leaving the dance floor and went up to him to say goodbye and bit his face. No! She bit his face. You know what? I don't judge. Yes, you read that right. I bit his face. To my surprise, 4 days later, he asks me out. So I pick him up and take him out for the night. He suckered me in with the wanna meet my dog line. Cutest dog ever. A few days later, I get a call from Tom. Hey, do you wanna come over for dinner tonight? It's my birthday. I say sure, thinking it would be like him and maybe his parents. Nope. It's a 50-person party. I met everyone. We hung out almost every day for the rest of the trip, and then he was back off to Colorado. As a week passes, I get a FaceTime from Tom saying that he hasn't stopped thinking about me and wants to see where this will go. I reluctantly agreed. She was reluctant because of the long distance thing. Girl, I get it. And decided to give it a try. He talked about maybe moving home after all. A few months later, after talking daily, he asked me to move to Colorado so we could date for real. So she moves to Colorado in January 2014. Jump ahead 6 years, and now we own a home, an adorable corgi dog, and just got engaged on August 9th, 2020. That was not that long ago. It was the most magical moment ever. I had a planned paddle boarding and floating at the lake near my house that I had never gone to. I invited a few friends and Tom invited his, socially distant of course. We load up the cooler and drive up to a picnic table to start pulling out the food. I grab a bottle of champagne out of the cooler, and as I'm pulling the foil off, Tom goes, "Wait, before you do." And I turn around and there he is, kneeling. He's kneeling across the cooler with the ring of my dreams, asking me to be his forever. And then he surprised me with our friends and a little dinner party afterwards. I love that. I love it! Wah! What I love about this story is how much Rebecca stayed on the Tom train, which I love that. It's like sometimes I forget that love at first sight does not mean love on demand. It needs time to grow, like a chia pet. Also, Rebecca sent me this picture from the moment it happened, and oh my God, look at her face. She's fucking shocked. I love that. Cheers, Rebecca. Rebecca and Tom are gonna make an epic couple, and I know their wedding is gonna be super fun. Rebecca unfortunately did not win the dress, but her story really stuck with me just because of her persistence and how much she stayed on that man's. Because in romantic comedies, we often see stories where the guy is pursuing the girl. That's just not how it is in these streets, okay, sisters? Like, I had to fucking stalk Patrick for many months. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. Well done, Rebecca. Speaking of time, I just learned a very interesting fact that a lot of the relationships that were just starting at the beginning of the pandemic had a really tough time getting out of the gate and continuing and progressing through this really crazy, stressful time. In fact, Amy Johnson, a communications professor at the University of Oklahoma, said that as couples spend more time together, they start to think of each other as an us. And as this couple begins to think of each other as an us, it then becomes easier to progress through difficult and uncertain times like long distance or working remotely. But what I love so much about this next couple, Micah and Jonathan, is that their timeline and that their sense of us wasn't developed in a traditional sense. I'll tell you about it with the help of my friends Chris and DJ. Dear Devin, let me tell you about love. When I met Jonathan in 2015, he was in a long-term relationship, but damn, she wrote, damn, he was gorgeous. He was the sweetest, most intelligent person I had met. The way he was stuttering just a little, so endearing, especially when he was giving public conferences in front of 200 people or in front of me. You see, he's a public intellectual, and I was mad at the world to be unable to walk next to someone like that. But, you know, you don't steal boyfriends. Nope. Respect. In 2017, I organized a goodbye party before I went on some field work to study in the World Bank in Washington, D.C. He came, we had fun, we promised to catch up when I got back 2 months later. He had to leave to go to a dinner with his girlfriend. But 2 hours later, guess who's back? It was him, Jonathan. And guess what? He was single. Clueless as to what to do, I told him we should do a picnic when I get back. And on this note, I left. When I got back, we had our first date. This was 3 years ago. I have to say that he works in a city a few hours away, so we never spend whole weeks together, so our life is always exciting. We always spice up our moments. But during the confinement, we were always together. Personally, I realized that it was the routine when I preferred being with him. Not the conferences in Europe or the road trips to Toronto. Not the lovely weekends. The routine. Doing nothing with him was enough for me. Just like this. Him and I. The confinement was the best period in our relationship. I decided I could not wait to start spending the rest of my life with him. Because we're both very feminist, I decided to propose. She decided to propose! Oh! I convinced a restaurant owner to open during the confinement period, so we had dinner alone in the middle of the cutest Italian restaurant. The owner had put a white cloth on one table with a bottle of wine. I also had help from friends to draw 1,000 butterflies. After all, we had been together 1,000 days on that very day. We also had been fans of butterflies since we saw a live butterfly museum in Vienna. So, after proposing, we went home by the back alley. There, friends put up 1,000 butterflies, a table, candles, and dessert. It ended beautifully, and it was the best day of my life. I love how romantic that is. She made him a little corner love alley with 1,000 butterflies and rented an Italian restaurant. She rose to the occasion and made the moment special. It sounds like that Micah did not sacrifice an ounce of herself to get into this situation. And that's why I love this story. Like, this is a bit of a digression on the Devin crazy train, but go with me. Growing up, my favorite Disney princess was Pocahontas because she didn't leave her land or her people for John Smith. In fact, in the Disney story, not in real life, the real story is really fucked up, but in the Disney story, she saves John Smith's life and then is like, no. Thank you, bitch. And I'm getting similar Pocahontas vibes from the story. Again, the Disney version, not the real life version. Micah did her own thing. She went to Washington, D.C. When he came back to this party and was like, cool, I'm single now. She wasn't like, let me give up my life. She was like, okay, I'll see you in 2 months. Maybe we'll do a picnic. I feel like I hear stories all the time where one party kind of fits themselves into a mold in order to make the relationship work. And these two just did it. They just did it. And what I love about their story is they fit each other into their lives because they wanted to. And then when 2020 came around and flipped the script on them, they adapted, man, and they fell in love even more. That is some real life love shit. Now, remember that news story I told y'all at the top about how Xi'an saw such a dramatic rise in divorce and it sent the whole world spinning? What people forget is that 8 hours south, there's a little city called Wuhan. I don't know, you might have heard of it. It's the epicenter of the virus. And in Wuhan, they saw a dramatic spike in marriage applications over another social media app called Alipay. Like, I love that people in China are just starting shit and ending shit on their phones. Like, cool, we're married. But the app reported a 300% spike in the months between January and April of marriage applications. That is some good news. What I want to know is, why did we hear about this at the beginning of this pandemic? Why did we only hear the bad news? Also, in a recent Monmouth University poll, they found that relationships in America are stronger than ever, despite the unexpected stresses like working remotely or having 24 hours with your kids. An example of this is our next story of Genevieve and John. And this story is acted out by my beautiful friends, Drew and Mary. My name is Genevieve Pan, and like many other couples this year, was supposed to get married in May 2020, and clearly that didn't happen. We've been together since we were 18 years old. We began dating during the last month of high school when I went off to college in Chicago, 2,000 miles away from Seattle. Now, mind you, John is one of those tough guys that doesn't really cry or like to show his sadness. I can probably count on 2 hands how many times I've seen tears in the man's eyes. But the day I left before Chicago, he gave me a promise ring, and it was the first time I witnessed him cry. John, it's okay, you can cry. Or you know what, John, I'll cry for you, because I cry like all the time, so I got you, John. He says this is the moment when he realized he wanted to marry me. A few months later, John visited me in Chicago, and I still remember that moment. I ran into his arms at the airport, and that was when I knew I was 1,000,000% in love with him! After 3 years of flying back and forth between the West Coast and the Midwest, I graduated early and moved back to Seattle. 6 years later, we've been living together for a few years and traveled around the world together, and we've rescued 2 dogs. Last year, John and I took a little weekend trip to the coast of Washington. It was easily 80 degrees that day, and for some reason, he kept his down jacket on the whole car ride. 4 hours. We stopped at a winery for lunch, and it was beaming hot, but he would not take his jacket off. I thought it seemed a little typical of him, so I didn't think of anything of it, but I did notice. We took a walk on the beach, and one of our dogs was freaking out because she hates to be close to the water. It was then that John knelt down to comfort our pups, and then he reached into his jacket to pull out a box with an engagement ring inside it. I don't even remember what he said to me. I was so speechless. And that's how we became engaged, 8 years into our relationship. Needless to say, he kept that puffy down jacket on the entire day, knowing that I probably would have gone through his pockets and found the ring. I love you, Genevieve! We have no choice but to stand a couple that's been together for 8 years before they choose to tie the knot. Hello? It's what I'm trying to do. And you know what I thought was so beautiful about this story is how much John loves and knows Genevieve. Like, he knew that she was gonna go through his coat pockets. He knows her and he loves her. Like I say all the time, I know myself and I love myself. Well, John knows Genevieve and he loves her. These beautiful couples unfortunately did not end up getting the dress. However, Calla Blanche is sending along a cute little gift packet for sharing their story with us. I needed to hear these stories, y'all, more than ever. And these stories just like brightened my day. And I really hope that they brightened your day as much as they did for me. Which brings us to our final reveal. It's the GD moment that we've been waiting for. The bride in question who won the dress. Are you ready? Are you ready? Am I ready? Are you ready? Bailey? Ariel?
Yeah. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
So Bailey, were you surprised? Because in the videos I sent, I'm like, wow, she keeps it so cool.
Hey babe, can you bring that box in here with a knife or something?
Definitely not preference. Are you serious?
Yeah, babe. She called me a couple days ago.
Oh my gosh! It's unreal! It's so pretty.
It's a good card with it, too.
I'm truly a Southern bitch because I have a pack of thank you notes, and I'm gonna write Bailey a little note so she knows that I really appreciate her watching my videos and that I hope she has a good wedding.
Just now.
It definitely hit me afterwards. The more that it set in and the more that we walked in the closet, and like every morning when we get ready, I'm like, there's a dress in there. Like it's just chilling in there. Like, what do we do with it? We met on Tinder, as everybody our age does. So we moved in last year around November.
We also talked about like getting married before it actually happened. We went to one of the jeweler who made the necklace that she always wears, that she's got custom made for her. So we went there just to like look at rings, and then I started following him on Instagram, which I got from her. I messaged him giving him ideas as to like what I wanted in a ring, and then COVID hit, so it kind of delayed a lot of the stuff. That he called me and was like, hey, like I had the mold of the ring. He asked me to come see it. He was sending me pictures, yada yada. And then I had the ring for
I don't
like
look at me.
4 or 5 months. They were like, let us know when you propose, so that way we can like feature you guys. He was like, I won't post anything on my website or on my Instagram or whatever, just in case. On Instagram, she doesn't post on Instagram very often. And these pictures were taken like months prior, like at the beach or whatever, something dumb. And she posted them and he was like, congratulations. And I was like, panic set in when she texted me. I was at work, I was like crying, and I went and like cried to my boss. I was freaking out.
After I sent her the picture, I was in the backseat of the car with our 2 friends, and I just started giggling. I just started laughing out of nowhere, and I was like, I think I know something I'm not supposed to know.
Then the next day, I came home from work. I work like 12-hour shifts, so I usually don't get home until kind of late, so she usually has dinner ready. Well, like 30 minutes you said before I got home, you decided to like light candles and make it pretty and whatever. And now we make the joke that she made her own proposal dinner, because I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. It's so pretty. It was all set up like perfect. Yeah. Like very picture perfect, to the point where I wanted to like whip my camera out. And I was like, screw it. So I went to the bedroom, I got my camera, and then I got the ring, and I was like, I just asked her.
Do it now.
I'm so excited for y'all. And it was your story, because not only was like the engagement happened like right before COVID, but also the engagement or the proposal was like a little bit ruined. But y'all seem to have bounced back in the most beautiful, graceful ways. And I don't know. I love your love. All right. Well, I have to go. I have to sign off. But it was so nice to meet y'all. And
thank you so much for everything.
Oh my God. Yes. Yay. Yay, love. Yay, you guys. Yay. Have a good one. All right.
You too. Bye.
So that's it, y'all. What started out as a free wedding dress ended up as a college course in love from all of you. These are your stories, and I read them all, and I have to say, you are all beautiful nerds, and I'm so glad that you found yourself here. And you deserve to have the wedding that makes you feel like a goddamn goddess, which is what that wedding dress made me feel like. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to those who shared your love story. I guess my whole thesis statement of this video is that even though these times are crazy and can feel really negative and hateful, there is love out there. So that's what I learned from all of you today. Thank you all for being here, you beautiful nerds. I'll see you next week. Mwah.